Yo, what is up guys, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to show you how to master the mastering. 2 weeks ago I uploaded a video about how to get the right frequency balance and sound like big artists, and I asked you for 200 likes if you wanted a mastering tutorial, and well, you doubled it. So today I'm going to show you how to do the mastering, how to make your track sound loud, how much is loud enough, and all these things. And I want to give a free mastering done by me to one of you. To do this is so simple, just click the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and put a comment down below in the comments. The more comments you put, the more chances you have to win. So if you want to put 10 comments, just put 10 comments. If you want to put 100 comments, just put 100 comments. But please, in the comment, put something referring to this, don't put just one emoji or just one word. Put something like, I want the mastering, I want to win the mastering, I want to win this giveaway, something like this, okay? So I know you're participating in this. And next Friday, 25th of September, I'm gonna say the winners in my Instagram stories, so follow me there if you don't follow me, or just next Friday, check my stories on my Instagram. So good luck to all of you. And one thing you need to know before mastering a track is that the mixing is the key. With the mastering, you can solve some problems like maybe a track sounds a bit muddy, so you can reduce on the mids, maybe it needs a bit more brightness, so you can increase the highs. But what you cannot solve is that your leads are loud or not loud enough, that your kick is cutting or not cutting through the mix. So try to get a good mixing, and after that with the mastering you can get that extra 5-10% to make it sound a bit better. And before going to the video, just remind you that my new chords MIDI pack is out right now, and down below in the description you have the link, so go there, go to Gumroad to get my pack if you want it. There are 30 professional chord progressions in major and minor keys, and you can just use them in your songs, so you just have to drag and drop and you have your chords. And with that being said guys, don't wait more and let's start with this tutorial. Alright, so for this tutorial I'm gonna use my song Here Tonight that sounds like this. That got released in Nick Cooper, was supported by Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike, and some more. And down below I have 3 reference tracks that I always recommend you to have reference songs while you're producing, while you're mixing, and while you're mastering. But I'm not gonna play them because of copyrights and those things, but they sound more or less similar as my track. So the first thing I always do when I'm gonna master a track is start with the build-up. I'm gonna do some things in the build-up that then when the drop comes, it's gonna seem that the drop is louder and stronger. So the first thing I'm gonna do is use Endless Smile with reverb or delay. So this way what I'm gonna get is a track more on the background. The second thing I'm gonna do is use an EQ to filter the lows and sometimes reduce a bit on the highs too. The third thing I'm gonna do is make the track a bit more narrow as the build-up goes. And the fourth thing that I'm gonna do is reduce a bit the volume as the build-up go. So with those 4 things, what we're gonna get is a track more pushed to the background, a bit more narrow and quieter. So then when the drop comes, we have again all the volume, all the stereo information, and all the frequencies, and the drop is gonna seem a lot louder. So I said the first thing I'm gonna use is Endless Smile. I'm just gonna use the first preset, and I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna right click here and create automation clip, and now I'm gonna go around 30% more or less. I'm gonna right click here, copy the value. So now here I can paste the value. And well, depending on the track, maybe I end here the Endless Smile, maybe I stop here, and do something like this, depends on the song. So let's check this one. Okay, so as it has, the build-up continues until here, and here we have private snare. I'm just gonna reduce it here, and I'm gonna make it a bit smoother, more like this, and also like this. And you hear that reverb? That reverb is because of Endless Smile. So without, it's gonna sound like this, and with the reverb, it's like this. Now I'm gonna open an EQ, as I said before, because I want to reduce a bit the lows and also the highs. So first thing I'm gonna do is just a low cut, and usually put it on 24 dBs per octave, something like this. Put it on the minimum, okay? And then from here, you're gonna start increasing. So right click here, create automation. And like before, I want to increase it until here. So let's see, where is this point? I can increase it a little bit more, maybe to 100 Hz, something like this. But always check it, okay? Always trust your ears, but just know more or less where it fits well. As you can see in this track, I probably already did it, so that's why here we don't see a lot of sub, but I always like to do it a little bit more, so I make sure there is no sub here. And as this track has a lot of highs, what I'm gonna do is also create a high cut here, and I'm gonna make it a bit steeper, like 48, something like this. But instead touching this, what I'm gonna do is touch the Q. So this way, when I reduce the Q, it's like creating like a high shelf. So just reduce it, something like this. And as I only want this EQ to work on the build-up, what I'm going to do is create an automation so I only enable this plugin on the build-up. This way I make sure that the low cut and the high cut is not going to affect the song, even if it's just on 10 Hz and 30,000 Hz, but just to make sure. Now for the stereo imaging, I like to use the S1 by Wave, so I'm just going to move this, I'm going to put it back on 1, and I'm going to create the automation. And usually I reduce it to 80, maybe 75, depends on the song, probably in this one just 80. So just put it here and let's see how it sounds. Maybe you can reduce it a little bit more, like 75. And I'm gonna make it like this. So this way we bring back all the information just when the drop starts, and not just a little bit before. And last but not least, for the volume, I'm gonna use the frequency balance. And instead of creating just the automation on the build-up, I'm gonna create it on the entire song. Because probably in some parts like this, I'm gonna increase a little bit the volume, and maybe also here. So this way in the end, all the parts of the track has more or less the same average volume, and not some parts are really quiet and some parts are really loud. But for now, what I'm gonna do is go on the build-up. I'm gonna create here a new point value. I'm gonna reduce it here and bring it back on the drop, not that much tension. And here probably what I'm gonna reduce is 1 dB, maybe 1 dB and a half. And now let's check just the before and after. Maybe reduce a bit too much the highs, but the rest I think is quite good. And you need to know that this depends on every song. Not in every song I use exactly the same settings and I reduce exactly the same volume, you know, and all these things. Every song is different, so you need to hear the song. And after I do this, I start with the actual mastering. The first thing I do always is just an EQ. With this EQ, what I'm gonna do is reduce a bit the lows and reduce a bit the highs, the frequencies that you basically don't need because you don't hear them or because sound systems don't play them. And also I try to find some resonance. Alright, so the first thing, as I said, I'm going to create a low cut and a high cut, and the low cut usually I put it on 36, 48 dBs per octave, and I put it around 30 Hz. And then on the high cut I like to put it more steep, like 72 dBs per octave, and usually put it around 19,000 Hz. But again, I'm gonna check it now and see how it works on this track. I know this song is in B minor or D major, so I can easily cut it here on 36 Hz because this is the D, and probably below that there is not anything, but maybe 36 dB is a bit too much. So what I'm gonna do is just put it in the middle of 30 and 36, so just 33, 34. And this is important because if you get those frequencies that you basically cannot hear or that are not important in your track, as those frequencies are not gonna be there, especially the sub ones, you're gonna be able to limit a bit more your track and make it sound a bit louder. And now I'm just gonna text for some resonance. And to do this, I'm just gonna create a bell. I'm gonna make it really narrow and just increase it a lot and move around here. And where there is a resonance, I'm just gonna reduce like 3, 5 dB, something like this. Alright, so I just reduced those frequencies, and as you can see, I didn't go too crazy with this, just 3, 5, 4, 6, and 4 dBs. And the next thing I'm gonna do is use a match EQ. If you want a more in-depth tutorial about this, I recommend you to check the video I uploaded 2 weeks ago that I put a link up here, because I explain how to use this to make your track sound more similar to famous tracks, you know, and how to get the right frequency balance. So this way you know if you need more highs or reduce the highs, you need more mids, reduce the mids, and all these things. So well, basically what I did is capture here my song and capture here the 3 reference tracks. So then I decided which one sounds better, and finally what I decided to do is just apply 2 match EQs, just slight touches. As you can see, is maybe half dB or not even that. And while this match EQ is with the track Rise by Nicky Romero and Stadium X, and this one with Novel by Nicky Romero. So basically what I'm doing is change a bit the color of the track to make it sound more similar to those ones. So this way I make sure that my track has enough highs or enough mids or whatever. And now what I'm gonna do is use the Master Assistant tool from Ozone 9, but using a reference track. In this case is Rise by Nicky Romero Stadium X. So with this, what I'm gonna do is again get a new match EQ to make it sound a bit closer, but also what it's gonna do is apply a dynamic EQ. So those parts where maybe the kick is a bit too punch or the highs are a bit too annoying are gonna get reduced dynamically, and you don't have to take care about this because sometimes you cannot hear those problems that Ozone 9 can hear. So just click on Master Assistant and go here on Reference. You already have the track. I like to put it on Modern and Streaming, and now click on Next and play your song. Now Ozone did everything that it wanted to make your track sound closer to the reference track, but a thing I always do first is to take out the maximizer. You can use this one. I'm not saying that it's bad or something like this. I just prefer to use others. Also, I delete this one because it's not being used. And now what I do is check what it's doing and touch it if it's needed to. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bypass this one, and I only have the EQ. I'm gonna click on Game Match, and I'm gonna click bypass so I can see before and after, but with the same volume. That's why the game match. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is or take out this one or just reduce it because the reference song doesn't have highs there because of MP3, so it's just doing this because of that, so just reduce it. And I like this, but not that much, so maybe just like 0.4. It gives a bit more body. And now the dynamic EQ, usually I just leave it like this or reduce a little bit, but what it's gonna do, as you can see, it's reducing in some parts, as I said, where probably it's a bit annoying, but maybe it's too much, so I'm just gonna reduce a bit the threshold. With Alt and click you can hear just a band. This one is not that annoying, so maybe I'm gonna reduce it a little bit. And this one, I don't really like it, so maybe I'm gonna increase it a little bit. And the thing I always use is the imager. First, what I'm gonna do is create 4 bands, so just like this. And also I'm gonna open a new imager on the master. Don't ask me why I use the imager 5, I just use this one because I always use this one. What I'm gonna do now is right click here and click on learn. And on the other imager, I'm gonna click here on learn and I'm gonna play the track. And what this did is just create the bands for you, the sub, the mid lows, the mid highs and the highs. And now what I'm gonna do, and this is why I put an imager on the master, I'm gonna solo the bands in the master and I'm gonna check my track with the reference songs. So first I'm gonna start with the sub and I'm gonna hear my track, and then I'm gonna hear the other songs so I can see that maybe my track in that band is a bit too wide or not wide enough and all these things, and then I'm gonna go with the mid lows, mid highs and then the highs. So just solo this one, and when I play it, what I like to do is go to this view and I can see it better, but I also can see it here. And now I'm gonna check the reference one. And sorry if I mute this, but because of copyright. As you can see, this one is a bit wider. Let's check it now with Rise. As you can see, this one is also a bit wider. And now let's check it with Novo. So maybe mine is a bit too mono, but as this is the sub, don't worry about this, you can leave it like that. Now let's check only the mid lows. As you can see, it's quite wide. Let's compare with Novo. As you can see here and as you can see here is a bit wider. Let's check it with Summer AD by Manse. Yeah, as you can see, it's also wider. So what I'm gonna do is go here, and on this band I'm gonna increase it a little bit, maybe like 15, 20. I can go even a bit farther, so maybe 25 or 30, 25. I'm gonna go now on the mid highs and I'm gonna do the same just for my track. And now let's compare with reference. I'm gonna also increase a little bit this. And now let's check the highs. I'm just using one reference track right now, but just to make the tutorial a bit quicker, but I always check it with all the songs. Maybe this is too much, and yeah, you can go on the red zone, okay? But what you don't want is to be always on the red zone. And as you could see, I've been using the analyzers to check this, but I also use my ears, and this is the most important thing. Always trust your ears. And finally, what I'm gonna do is limit the track. I'm gonna use 2 limiters. The first one is gonna be the Fab Filter L2, that what I'm gonna do is just cut the peaks. And the second one is gonna be the invisible limiter, that what it's gonna do is just make it sound loud and compressed and with a short dynamic range. And I also use 2 limiters because it's gonna sound a bit bit better if you use 2 limiters, just increasing a little bit the volume each one of them, than if you use just 1 limiter, increasing a lot the volume and compressing a lot. If you want to know more about how loud is loud enough, how to make your track sound a bit louder and all these things, I have a video that I put a link up here that I recommend you to watch. So as I said, the first thing I'm going to use the Pro L2, and I always put it on transparent mode. And what I'm going to do is increase the gain until I see I'm reducing, and usually I don't go further than 2 dBs, or maybe a little bit more than 2, but not a lot, just to cut the peaks. And now with the invisible limiter, I'm gonna make it sound fat and compressed and all those things. On this one, I'm gonna click here first on unity gain. So this way, when I increase the volume, it's gonna keep the same volume at the end and the output. So what I'm gonna do is increase it until I hear that it's distorting, and then come back a little bit until it doesn't distort. So here distorts. I think here it doesn't distort, and what I'm going to do now is go here and bypass this plugin and then enable again, so I can see if it's really distorting or not. So maybe it's distorting a little bit, so I'm going to reduce a bit more. And now what I'm going to do is check if it's loud enough or not, and if it's loud enough, maybe I reduce it a bit more to make sure it doesn't distort. To do this, I'm going to be using these 2 plugins. This first is the TT dynamic range to check the dynamic range of the track, and then with this one, what I'm going to check is the loops. So with the first one, I'm going to check how compressed it is, and with the second one, I'm going to check the perceived loudness. So in this one, as it is progressive house, here we should have a value around 4, 4.5, something like this. So it's around 4.54, so it's good. If you want, you can increase it a little bit more. But for example, if it was at 3.7, something like this, I could reduce a bit the limiter, so this way I make sure it doesn't distort and it's still being loud enough. And now here in the loops, around 4.7 is loud enough. If you want to check it better, you can use the reference tracks and check what value it has on the loops and what value it has on the dynamic range. So it's where you get a closer mastering to those tracks. The last thing I recommend you to do is go to the limiters and click here on the oversampling. And I usually put it on 16, and also do it on this one, put it on 16, because this way what you're gonna get is, well, basically less like noise, distortion, or frequency that you don't want that were created because of the limiting. And well, after this, you just need to render the track. And I always recommend to get a wave and an MP3 versions. So for wave with 34-bit is enough, and for MP3 I recommend you always to put it on the max, 320. And then here on quality I always have it on the max on 512.sync, and just this setting, just check it and click start and you have your track rendered. So I just rendered a part of the track to check how it's the waveform, and as you can see it's quite good. You can compare it with the other tracks, but this part here is probably a bit too quiet, and also maybe this one here. So probably what I would do is just use the automation that I created here for the volume and make it a little bit louder than maybe 1 dB, maybe 2 dBs, and then slowly bring it back here, because here I don't need it to be louder. So well guys, this is how I master my tracks, and this is how I recommend you to do it, because it's the easiest way to do it. And guys, remember, I always recommend you to check before and after you do anything. When you apply a magic EQ, check before and after. When you apply a new EQ, check before and after. Even when you apply a limiting, I recommend you to check before and after, but of course in the same volume. So this way you check if you're doing something wrong or if you're making it sound better. And as I said, if you want a mastering done by me, just leave a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and leave down below as many comments as you want, so you have more chances to win. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope it's been helpful for you, and see you in the next video.